The sun hadn't even fully crested the palms when I pulled my Harley into the parking lot of the state attorney's office. The roar of the engine bounced off the concrete walls, echoing in the crisp morning air. I killed the ignition, unstrapped my leather saddlebag, and walked toward the side entrance, nodding to a deputy stationed outside. This was supposed to be a simple briefing. Just me, some evidence, and a 10-minute rundown of a public corruption case I'd been building for 6 months. But of course, nothing in my neighborhood, especially with Karen Whitfield running the HOA, ever stayed simple. Karen's son, Ethan, a 16-year-old brat with a smug smile and zero respect for boundaries, had been eyeing my Harley for weeks. I caught him loitering around my driveway once, pretending to take selfies while clearly sizing up the bike. I warned him then, "Touch it, and I'm filing a police report." Apparently, Ethan didn't take me seriously. I'd barely gotten through the first 2 slides of my briefing when my phone buzzed. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again, then again. 3 missed calls. 1 from my neighbor Dale, 1 from dispatch, 1 from an unknown number. I excused myself, stepped into the hallway, and called Dale first. He answered on the first ring. "Marcus, you'd better get back here. Karen's called the cops." "For what?" I asked, confused. "She says you let Ethan take your Harley, and now it's missing. But your bike is still in your driveway. I just saw it." "Wait, what?" "I'm parked at the state attorney's office, Dale. The Harley's not at home." There was a long pause. "Oh, then Ethan must have taken someone else's. Or she's lying to the cops again." "Perfect. Just perfect." I bolted back into the conference room, apologized quickly, and explained that I had a situation developing back home. The state attorney gave me a nod. He knew all about Karen already. Her name had come up in 3 separate neighborhood dispute reports. Back on the street, I revved the engine hard. As I sped home, I wondered what version of events Karen was feeding the responding officers. If my Harley was missing and Ethan was involved, this was no misunderstanding. It was a setup, one I needed to unravel before Karen weaponized the police again, like she had last month, when she falsely reported my security cameras as illegal surveillance. But this time, it wasn't just about HOA pettiness. This time, there were criminal charges on the table, for her, for Ethan, or maybe even for me, if I didn't handle this right. By the time I turned onto my street, 2 squad cars were already parked in front of my house, lights flashing. Karen stood on my lawn, arms crossed, giving a statement to one of the officers like she was starring in some twisted, HOA-themed episode of Law and Order. Her son Ethan sat sulking on the curb, arms flailing as he talked to another officer, clearly trying to look like the victim. My Harley wasn't in my driveway. My heart sank. I parked halfway up the block and jogged toward the chaos, badge clipped to my belt. One of the officers, Collins, someone I'd worked with on several community details, spotted me and walked over, looking both confused and relieved. "Chun, you won't believe this mess," he muttered. "Karen called it in. Said her son was traumatized because you let him ride your Harley, then reported it stolen when he didn't bring it back. She's claiming I gave Ethan permission to take my Harley?" "Yeah. And then filed a complaint saying you retaliating because she reported you to the HOA last month." Unreal. I took a slow breath and pointed down the street. "I've been at the state attorney's office for the past 2 hours. My Harley was parked right outside." "Was?" Collins raised an eyebrow. "Yeah. I stepped out to take the call and found it gone. I thought maybe someone towed it or played a prank. But now this." At that moment, Karen stomped over. You let my son take that death trap, and now you're trying to get him arrested? You're obsessed with this vendetta against me." I kept my voice calm. "Karen, I never gave Ethan permission to touch my bike. You know that. And you've just filed a false police report, which is a criminal offense." "Oh, please," she scoffed. "My son doesn't lie. And why else would he have your keys?" "What?" My stomach dropped. "He had the keys?" She paused. Too late. Collins caught the slip too. "So Ethan had the ignition keys?" Karen backpedaled fast. "Well, I didn't see the keys, but he said you handed them over." "I didn't even see him today," I said flatly. "We're going to need body cam review, Collins. This smells like a setup." Before Collins could respond, his radio crackled. "Unit 31. Be advised, motorcycle matching bolo just located 2 blocks east. Minor collision with a parked vehicle. Suspect is in custody." Ethan turned pale. Karen spun around. And I knew then, This was about to get a whole lot uglier. The moment the radio squawked that Ethan had been taken into custody near a collision site, Karen's mask slipped. Her eyes darted around. Her lips trembled, but not with sadness or concern. It was panic. She hadn't planned on Ethan being caught. Not this fast. Collins gave her a look that said he'd seen enough. "Ma'am, I need you to stay right here." Karen folded her arms like a sulking teenager. "I demand to be present when you speak to my son." "You can demand all you want," Collins replied coolly. "Right now, your son is being evaluated for a possible vehicle theft and misdemeanor reckless driving." Karen gasped. "He's a child." He was tricked. I ignored her and pulled out my phone. I had something Karen didn't expect. A paper trail. "Collins," I said, scrolling through my messages. "Here. This is a text I got from Ethan last week. He asked if he could take the Harley for a spin." I said no, very clearly. "Look." Collins read the text thread and nodded. "Crystal clear." Karen snapped her fingers at me like I was a waiter. "You're a police officer. You're not supposed to trap people." "I didn't trap anyone," I said. "I told him no. You let him take the keys, or he stole them. And now you're trying to pin this on me." Just then, another squad car pulled up with Ethan in the back seat. His hair was windswept, a small scrape on his cheek. He looked more embarrassed than injured. An officer opened the door, and Ethan climbed out, refusing to look at his mother. Karen ran toward him. "Sweetheart, are you okay? Tell them you had permission." Ethan looked at her, then at me, then at Collins. And then, he said the quiet part out loud. "Mom told me where your spare key was. She said it was our chance to teach you a lesson. She said you'd been harassing us with your stupid HOA complaints and that no one would believe you if I just took a little ride." Karen's jaw dropped. "Ethan, no, I didn't say that." Collins calmly took a step forward. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to turn around and place your hands behind your back." "What? You're arresting me?" she shrieked. "For filing a false police report, conspiracy to commit theft, and endangering a minor. You can explain your lesson to the judge." I locked eyes with Ethan. "You made a stupid choice. But being honest right now, that might have just saved you from something worse." He looked like he was about to cry. Karen, meanwhile, was still screaming as the cuffs clicked shut. And I knew the HOA board was about to get one hell of an emergency meeting notice. Karen screamed the entire ride to the squad car, throwing out threats like candy at a parade. "I'll sue. I'll have your badge. You think the HOA will let this stand? This is a witch hunt." But no one was listening anymore. Not even Ethan. He stood off to the side, slumped against the hood of a cruiser, arms crossed, eyes locked on the pavement. He looked like a kid who just realized his mom wasn't a hero, just someone who had dragged him down with her. Collins walked over to me while his partner read Karen her rights. "She'll probably make bail," he muttered. "But that kid might actually learn something." "Maybe," I replied. "Let me guess. No prior record? Clean. Juvenile slip-ups at most. But her? She's got 2 HOA complaints under review for harassment and 2 civil suits pending from former neighbors. This'll be her first arrest, though. Hopefully her last." Within the hour, I was back at the state attorney's office. The briefing had been delayed for my sake, which was generous considering what was at stake. When I returned, the assistant state attorney, Paulson, raised an eyebrow and smirked. "You okay, Chin? Heard your neighborhood staged a live episode of Cops." "More like HOA. Civil war," I said dryly. "It's handled. Karen's in custody, and her son gave a full statement." Paulson nodded slowly. "You know, I've had her name flagged twice now in unrelated nuisance complaints." "What kind of power does she think she holds?" "HOA president," I replied. "The only title more dangerous than mayor without the accountability." We finished the briefing. Evidence submitted. Timeline discussed. The corruption case I'd been working on for months was finally moving forward. But even as I left, I knew the real fallout was still waiting back home. 2 days later, the HOA board called an emergency session. Karen wasn't there. She was under house arrest pending her hearing. I showed up, not to gloat, but to submit a formal motion for her removal from the board. The vote was unanimous. Ethan, he sent me a letter. A real one. Handwritten. Apologizing. Said he was sorry for the Harley. For lying. For not standing up to his mom sooner. He also said he was going to try and get a part-time job to help pay for the damage to the car he hit. I passed it along to the owner, who was grateful and surprised. Sometimes the damage isn't permanent. Sometimes kids learn. Karen's house went up for sale a month later. Rumor was she was relocating to Florida, somewhere where people respect HOA rules. I almost laughed, but I didn't, because in the end, justice wasn't about watching Karen crash and burn. It was about making sure people like her couldn't keep turning neighborhood drama into police reports and personal crusades. I just hope the next neighborhood she lands in knows what's coming. If you enjoyed watching HOA, Karen spiral out of control after her son tried to steal my Harley, and justice finally caught up with her. Make sure to hit that like button to show these HOA bullies we're not backing down. Got a wild HOA story of your own? Or ever had a neighbor like Karen? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. And trust me, the crazier, the better. And if you want more real drama, real consequences, and more HOA madness gone wrong, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this neighborhood war is just getting started.